أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الرجال نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون وللنساء نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون مما قل منه أو كثر نصيبا مفروضا. وإذا حضر القسمة أولو القربى واليتامى والمساكين فارزقوهم منه وقولوا لهم قولا معروفا. وليخشى الذين لو تركوا من خلفهم ذرية ضعافا خافوا عليهم فليتقوا الله وليقولوا قولا سديدا. إن الذين يأكلون أموال اليتامى ظلما إنما يأكلون في بطونهم نارا وسيصلون سعيرا.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وخليل الله. أما بعد. We would like to thank you all for gathering with us once again for the series of Islamic inheritance in English. Before we actually begin, we would like to highlight certain things of the class we are going to go over. So if you look at your screen, you should see the practice of inheritance in the Arabian Peninsula prior to Islam. Who are the inheritors? Relatives who do not inherit, what do they receive? What prevents inheritance? And lastly, the conclusion, that which will be covered in the next video to complete our series, inshallah ta'ala. I would like to also note that which has a star by it, please pay close attention to it, as it will help us to actually apply the science of Islamic inheritance. To appreciate the value of Islamic inheritance, to understand the beauty of it, we must understand how was inheritance distributed amongst the people prior to Islam. Now, we would like to also state that even though we do not have all the intricate details of how the inheritance was distributed amongst the people prior to Islam, however, that which still is confirmed is that the women were very oppressed during that time. Not only were they not allowed to inherit, however, they also were inherited themselves. And this is seen in the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He mentions, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la yuhillukum an tarithu nisaa karha, in Surah An-Nisa. O you who believe, it is not permissible for you to inherit women against their will. So as we see, Islam did not only elevate the women, however, at the same time, simultaneously, it safeguarded their economic and social status. And in fact, the science of inheritance was sent down in the defense of a woman. What occurred at the time, there was a companion by the name of Aus bin Thabit al-Ansari, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who had a wife by the name of Qudja and 2 daughters. When Aus bin Thabit died, his 2 cousins by the name of Arfaja and Suwaid, they came and gathered all of his wealth and took all of his wealth, and they did not leave anything for his wife nor his daughters. Because of this, Qudja, she went to the Prophet ﷺ to complain about the issue. As we stated before, that women during that time did not inherit anything, and this is actually before the establishment of Islamic inheritance. So Qudja, she went to the Prophet ﷺ to complain about the issue. The Prophet ﷺ immediately called the 2 men to come forth. When the 2 men came forth, they put forth their argument, Ya Rasulullah, that even in the times of Jahiliyyah, the women did not inherit. They did not help us in battle, they did not help us with the cattle or anything like this. They have no right to inherit anything. Upon this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the ayah that you just heard. لِلْرِجَالِ نُصِيبٌ that for the men have a share and for the women they have a share as well. And at that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not clarify as to how much was the woman's share. Therefore, the Prophet ﷺ ordered the two men to leave the wealth totally until Allah judges in their affair. SubhanAllah, a lot of you do not know. The first ayat to be revealed in Farad was in defense of a woman. This woman by the name of Kunja. Before actually going into any more detail, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned the Rijali Musibu, and because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned Wal-Nisa'i Musibu, but we do not know as of yet, we did not cover in this series as to who are the men that inherit and who are the women that inherit. So if you look at your screen right now, you should see the men, the inheritors of the men. So actually, let's cover it one by one. There are actually 15 types of men that inherit. I will only go over 14 of them, inshallah ta'ala. The first of them being the husband. The husband. In Arabic, this is called a zawj. Obviously, if the woman has died, her husband is entitled to some of her money. The second one, father. In Arabic, ab. The third one, grandfather. In Arabic, jad. The next one, son. In Arabic, ibn. The next one, grandson. In Arabic, ibn. The next one, your full brother, meaning you both have the same mother and same father. Akh shaqiq. Akh shaqiq. The next one, your paternal brother, meaning you and your brother only share the same father and have different mothers. Akh li'ab. Akh li'ab. The next one, this may sound a little funny, explaining it in English, however, inshallah ta'ala, bear with me and hopefully we will cover it all. The next one, your full nephew, meaning your full brother that has a son. Ibn akh shaqiq. Ibn akh shaqiq. The next one, your half brother from your father, you guys share the same father, and your brother has a son. This is your paternal nephew. Ibn akh li'ab. Ibn akh li'ab. The next one, your full uncle. Am shaqiq. Am shaqiq, meaning your father, his brother, they both have the same mother and same father. The next one, your paternal uncle, meaning your father and his brother only have the same father. Am li'ab. Am li'ab. Your cousin, your full cousin, ibn am shaqiq. Ibn am shaqiq. Your paternal cousin, ibn am li'ab. Ibn am li'ab. And lastly, your brother from your mother's side, meaning your brother, you and your brother only share the same mother and different father. Akh li'um. Akh li'um. These are the inheritors, these are the men that are allowed to inherit from you when you die. These are the men that are allowed to inherit from you when you die. We will actually cover what if the relative is not from these 14 men, then who, we will cover that later on, inshallah ta'ala. But now let's cover who are the female inheritors that are allowed to inherit from you when you die. As you see on the screen now, the first one is wife. In Arabic, zawja. Obviously, if a man dies, he has a wife. She's allowed to inherit from him, zawja. The next one, daughter. In Arabic, bint. The next one, granddaughter. In Arabic, bint ibn. The next one, mother. In Arabic, The next one, grandmother, in Arabic, Jeddah. The next one, your full sister, meaning your sister, you and your sister share the same father, the same mother. Ukht shaqiqa, ukht shaqiqa. And your paternal sister, meaning you and your sister only have the same father. Ukht li'ab, ukht li'ab. And your maternal sister, meaning you and your sister only share the same mother, however you share different fathers. Ukht li'um. Ukht li'um. Just briefly, should the relatives not be from the aforementioned people, then what applies here? The scholars, they mentioned the second verse of what you heard in the beginning of the video. And that second verse was, وَإِذَا حَضَرَ الْقِسْمَةَ الْأُولُو الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ فَارْزُقُوهُم مِّنْهُ وَقُولُوا لَهُمْ قَوْلًا مَّعْرُوفًا. Therefore, the scholars, they have mentioned two different opinions when it comes to this ayah. That which they have mentioned if the relatives are present at the time of distributing the inheritance, if they are not from these people that I mentioned, from the women or from the men, then a small portion of the inheritance should be given to them as a gift, to not bring up any hard feelings between the relatives. That they should be given something as a small gift. Some of the scholars have mentioned, rather, this is when the will comes into play. As we said before, the will can be given up to a third of the person's estate. And the will cannot be given to the direct beneficiaries. Therefore, if the relatives are not from these aforementioned people, the scholars of Islam have mentioned it is better for the person to give from his will, the third of his will, to these other relatives who are not direct beneficiaries. And this will, inshallah ta'ala, get rid of any type of hard feelings that can exist between the relatives. So what we would like to do now, inshallah ta'ala, is actually speak about mawani al-irth. Mawani al-irth. That which actually prohibits someone from inheriting from an individual. There are three, however, we will only mention two, inshallah ta'ala. Those two, the first one being from them, al-qatl. Al-qatl, which is murder. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لَيْسَ لِلْقَاتِلِ مِنْ مَرَاثِ شَيْءٍ. That the murderer has no right to any part of the inheritance. And if you think about logic, that makes sense. And we see it all the time, and unfortunately in certain parts of the world, that people, they harm their relatives because they desire the estate. Now also at the same time, we would like to mention something, that if a person is defending themselves, for example, may Allah forbid, a woman has an abusive husband, and she's defending herself, and she makes a mistake and actually kills him in defense. Maybe she pushes him, he falls, hits his head. This does not fall underneath this category. However, another example would be if there's a rich uncle, an example, a very rich uncle, and one of the children, a very rich uncle, and he's on his deathbed in the hospital. One of the children desires his wealth, so therefore they command the doctor to pull the plug on purpose when there's a chance of the uncle to live. In this case, this is counted as murder. And that particular child is blocked from the inheritance in Islam. The second reason why a person cannot inherit it from the individual is called ikhtilaf din, the difference of religion. The Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, لا يرث المسلم الكافر ولا الكافر المسلم. Now, even though this is clear and straight to the point, there are some questions that have to be asked. What if a person has non-Muslim parents? Are they allowed to inherit from them? And actually, the hadith is very clear. However, that which is done in America and in other places are not necessarily inherited. If the non-Muslim parent leaves behind that which is called a will, that is not a part of inheritance. And in that case, a person can actually inherit and actually take the will from their non-Muslim parent. However, inheritance is something different. Another thing that needs to be touched on is if the parents, meaning the husband and the wife, however the wife is a Jew or is a Christian, if they have children, are the children allowed to inherit? Or rather, which religion does the child fall under? The scholars of Islam have explained if the child is underneath the age of puberty, then the child is considered to be of the religion of Islam. So if the father dies and the child is to inherit, that is because, as the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned, Islam ya'lu wa la yu'la alayh, that Islam has a high position. So therefore, the child is considered to be a Muslim. However, once the child reaches puberty, if the child decides to no longer be a Muslim, may Allah forbid, then they are no longer to be accounted from those that inherit, as it falls underneath the asl, the origin, or rather the basis, which is that لا يرث المسلم الكافر ولا الكافر المسلم. Inshallah ta'ala, we hope we have clarified certain issues, and in the next video we will actually practice how do we apply the science of inheritance. When does the mother take a fourth of the wealth? When does she take an eighth of the wealth? When does the husband takes half of the wealth? When does he take a fourth of the wealth? And so on and so forth. We will actually go step by step of the inheritance.